Hey everybody, what's going on? We are All Time Low, and we are here to break down track by track Wake Up Sunshine for all of you. We have invited all of our friends who helped us make this record. We did it over the course of most of last year, starting in January in Nashville at Ryan's studio. Track Happy Studios. I wore the shirt. Huh?
Let's go.
Branding.
Let's go.
Money's checks in the mail, brother.
Baby, it is. And then in the summer, we went out to Palm Desert with some more friends and rented a house out there and built a studio in the house and did a lot more of the record there. And then we summed it up at the end of the year going to Big Bear, where we wrote the two last songs for the album that both made it onto the record and were the nice little sprinkle of icing on the, you know.
I don't even know how to call it icing. Or
it's like, yeah, we sprinkled the icing on the Wake Up Sunshine cake.
First of all, you don't sprinkle icing.
No.
You do,
I'm not a
Jen.
baker. I'm not a baker.
You gotta whip it and stir it, right?
Don't come for me and my cakes, okay? That's all.
Okay.
Don't knock them. Say that. Don't knock them till you've tried them. So we're gonna go track by track, starting from the top, obviously, and conveniently enough, track one is Some Kind of Disaster, which was one of the first songs that we recorded for the record, and it was one that we did in Nashville at the top of the journey. So here to join us now, obviously, we have Zakk Cervini, who oversaw the entire project.
I'm going to guess he's going to be right here.
We have Zakk Cervini. There he is.
Hey.
Hi. What's up, guys?
Hi, not much.
Hey, boy.
Thanks for joining us for this. This is good shit.
Thanks for having me. Awesome.
Hey, man. So Zakk is going to be piloting the ship today, so to speak. There will be moments where he can pull in the Pro Tools session and we can dive into some of the nitty gritty for y'all. And then also with us right now, who was with us in January in Nashville, is Phil Gornell, who was a big part of the producing and co-producing on this record.
I got to say, guys, so far this is going very well. This is a nice...
Yeah.
Well, we haven't really done much, Ryan, yet. So
I know, but so far we're doing well.
It hasn't come off the rails yet. We're not at track one.
We got our fingers crossed, Freddie.
Yeah. So I think we should just dive right into this. Obviously, this is a track-by-track breakdown of Wake Up Sunshine, and we're going to go into all the details and talk about what the songs are about, how they came to be, and sort of some of the inner workings of the recordings as well.
One thing I remember about this song is when we first did it, Alex, you and I kind of kept talking about how great it would be to either encore with it or open a show with it eventually. And that was before we had the conversation of track listing or even like a record in general. So it's kind of funny how that idea of like, you know, having this idea of that bass line, just starting a show came in to be like, oh, you know what? Why don't we just start the song with the record with this song? We
sort of like had this demo going that Phil was heading up, and the big thing obviously was the bass line and the how anthemic the chorus felt. And we just felt like those two elements were very reminiscent of like some of the more staple All Time Low songs from years past, but also just felt really classic in general. And I remember really like honing in on that bass line, the very simple one note, just cruising through the verses. And
for some reason, it almost felt like it had to open the record. Like I couldn't picture it, even like before we had most of the record finished, or even like the thought of a record, like you said. It had that feeling where it couldn't go in like the middle or something.
You're right. We never really had, when I'm talking about track listing, it never really was like, well, are we sure we want to do Some Kind of Disaster? Like first, it was always just right away.
I feel like that was a nice guideline when we got into writing the rest of the record, because we sort of had the bigger picture forming already, and that doesn't usually happen at the beginning of the process.
Yeah, I think it definitely helped. Like, you know, when you guys said, "Oh, this one's is a great opener," it kind of helped set a tone for how the rest of it's gonna go, and like what worked and what didn't.
I also don't think we had this bridge written until Cervini came into play a couple days later, and I remember it kind of like slaps you in the face in a good way out of nowhere. You know, the song's kind of cruising along and all of a sudden just this kind of shift happens. And then I remember Cervini, or I think it was Cervini, that we had to figure out how to draw the tempo down from like where it slows down and then builds back up. So I don't know if we can bring that in to show you like the amount of tempo changes there are.
Yeah, Alex, you and Phil had been writing for like a week, and then like I came out to Nashville and you played me like a bunch of stuff, and this song just like jumped right out at me as like just like big anthem, like opus type song. So I thought it could be cool to like add like some crazy tempo changes and stuff in here.
Yeah.
And it was kind of
that's what we have here. Look, we go into 13/8 for a
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
It was kind of great too, because I think oftentimes when you're just starting to draft up like a bunch of your first demos for what will eventually become a record, you're sort of just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what starts to stick. And so it was almost like really nice to have you come in a week later when we had a few ideas rolling and kind of bring in a fresh take. And because I don't think after spending a week on this song, I don't think any of us would have had the instinct to say, okay, for the bridge, let's have a sudden tempo change and drop the feel completely. Yeah. And then count out from 13. Why not? So, you know, it brought a really good, fresh perspective to some of the earlier songs that ended up being very defining, important songs on the record.
Can we do that little break part while following along and just see if, to take a look at it?
Yeah, let's see what's happening here. So it's like.
So this is the end of the bridge, coming to the turn.
Now we're set here.
Big tempo drop.
30 BPM and then back up.
Some harmonies.
There's the 13/8.
I don't know.
It doesn't work.
But it feels good. It feels good.
It was interesting to translate that live too.
Oh yeah.
We cut out the click, right?
So we cut out the click and then we extended that before that Alex's last chorus comes in, before his vocal start. And that made it easier, honestly, because otherwise it's just metronome everywhere. In this place, we'd be like, okay, shut up until it starts back up. Then
that's cool.
We leave it hanging. Hey, can we solo out those harmonies for a second just to open this thing off with a big Queen moment?
If I'm not mistaken, I think those are all me.
Yeah. Stack of what? 8?
10. And they do like some crazy panning and volume.
Nice.
I feel like that's the last thing you'll hear before you go to heaven.
It is.
You're going to heaven.
Confirmed.
As if any of us are going to heaven.
It plays
is that flange that we're hearing? By the way, this record does have a fair amount of flange on it, which makes me very happy.
I mean, hey, we're all 90s boys, baby. We live for the flange.
And you know what I think is really good about this song? I think what's really good about this song too, from a lyrical thematic standpoint as well, is that this song really feels like the ode to the fans and the love letter to like us making a new album. Like I sort of tried to write all of these songs for this record with a bit of like self-awareness, and it's every song, a lot of the songs at least, have like sort of two faces to them. Like on one hand, a lot of the songs sound like I'm speaking directly about a subject or a someone or something much more direct and personal, but a lot of these songs really are about us as a band and the fan base being that other. And so I think in a big way, this song sets the tone for sort of us presenting ourselves again to the world and to the fans with a new record, saying, we've said this, we've done this, we've been through all these things, we've run the gauntlet, we've seen highs, we've seen lows as a band, as artists, and now here we are to take this ride again. Will you come with us?
I think a lot of songs, including this one, feel like they could have been on any of our albums, which is kind of which plays into that, which is really cool.
Staple songs.
Stapler.
Yeah. So there we go. That's something's got to give. That's some kind of disaster.
See, it could have been on Future Hearts.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
What does that move on to?
I was reading this amazing fan theory the other day. So how we've talked about Last Young Renegade being sort of this like pocket universe for All Time Low, this sort of sidestep. And I wanted to confirm that is in fact kind of the truth. Like I see this record more so as being like the sequel or the follow-up to where we left off with Future Hearts, and sort of our Last Young Renegade thing being like a side story, an adventure somewhere else for All Time Low. So it's kind of cool to see people pick up on that, because
that's
there's
why
a lot
Scotty's really cool.
Yeah.
Because it's just it starts, first 20 seconds are a rock band, drums, guitar, bass, and a vocal. It's All Time Low in its 4-piece.
100%. I agree.
Yeah.
And I think that's what spoke to, I think, all of us so much about this song starting the record, is it's like there's no mistaking the sort of the identity of the last record that was very much its own thing with all the analog synths and like this other vibe that we went for with that record. This was very much back to, 2 guitars, bass, and drums, which was very important for this album.
And some Queen vocals in the bridge.
Of course.
Yeah. And one more cool thing I'd like to add to is like your last record, when I listen to it, it feels like a dream to me, and it has like all this like nighttime imagery and stuff, whereas like Wake Up Sunshine is like the opposite of that almost, because it's like daytime, sunshine, bright. But what's really funny to me is like this song starts the record. It's the first song you put out, and from like the beginning guitar and stuff, and when you start singing, it almost sounds like something off of Last Young Renegade, and then it just like punches you in the face with the bass and the drums, and then like it's just like into like a big rock chorus. So you almost like segued into this record sonically.
Really makes you think about the first line of that verse, huh?
Mm.
I woke up. What is it? Let me pull it up real quick.
I think you have the lyric page there.
I'm more of a melodies guy myself.
So Sleeping In, track 2, this was written at the Marble Mansion in Palm Desert. So this was fast forward like 6 months from when we started the record process. At this point in our lives, we knew that we were about that record life. We were making an album. We were set. We had written a bunch of songs already. And we all got together and basically lived in this house for about, 3 weeks to a month or so?
Yeah.
I got to say, this was, bigger picture, one of the coolest experiences of my life being in this band. And like going out and making a record this way, I, at this point, don't ever want to make a record another way. Like I love studios. I love that whole vibe. But for some reason, just having our own space, even though it was kind of like janky in a way, like Zakk was set up on a table and we were balancing shit. And I was like sitting on a rug with a SM7 mic. And like, that's a lot of the vocals that made the record, but it just felt so good.
I will say, Alex, that your work ethic was apparent during all this, because if you weren't so adamant about working, like we would not have gotten shit done.
Oh my
God. Literally by 11 a.m. every morning, you're like, all right, Cervini, let's go. Like, and you wouldn't stop till like midnight.
And not only that, but like there were days that, you know, if we woke up in a mood that either didn't want to work or in a bad mood, you're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go in the pool. Alex, you could be in the, not like you're in a bad mood, but you could be in a not creative mood and you'd still be like, all right, let's get this rhythm guitar down for Getaway. You know, it's just like, damn.
That's all Cervini, though. Cervini's a work machine. Like, he never stops either. So it was just like, I would see him sitting, editing or doing something, and I was like, it would almost guilty conscience myself into being like, well, now we got to do something, because Zakk's been sitting there for an hour and a half, like, editing.
And it should be noted that, like, you know, as the song is called Sleeping In, the first couple days, we were working until like 4 or 5 a.m. and then back at it like 10 a.m. And I remember going to Cervini and being like, dude, is this okay? And he's like, I mean, if we could finish at like 2, that'd be great.
I remember we first walked into this house and it was like this huge marble mansion thing. And like Alex sang one take into the microphone and it was like a literal echo chamber.
Just
and we were like, oh dear. But like it's crazy. It's something that I tell everyone. It's like literally all the vocals for this record, Alex sat on the couch behind me, wrote the lyrics, sang them into a handheld mic in a freaking marble echo chamber, and that's what you hear on the record. And we were nervous about our mixer Neil Averon like getting the files and being like, oh, this
didn't he love it though?
But yeah, he loved it. He was like, it's such a vibe, it's sick, I love it. So
when I think of the July sessions, this is the song that like encapsulates that for me, like just the vibe of the whole thing, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
To me, the second we wrote this one, I was like, okay, Sleeping In feels like a very important all-time low song in the vein of like our fun, energetic music, and B, like it's just undeniably good vibes. And I think, again, it spoke to where this record was going to go and all the turns it was going to take. But Sleeping In came on a day that I feel like we were sort of all just, it was midday, we were all just hanging, and it was a good vibe in the house. And I remember, I want to say like the Zacks, both Zacks kind of were sitting jamming out, and this came up with this kind of groove for the verse feel, the intro verse feel. The hang up that I always remember about this one was not knowing exactly what to do with the chorus, because I think when we originally approached the chorus, we were thinking about like sticking with the feel of the,
it wasn't that cut time at all.
Vibey.
It was just like keep it grooving. And then we sort of felt like, you know, this sounds like a Maroon 5 song or something. Like it didn't feel like it was resonating, and it kind of felt like it was losing steam once you got to that chorus place. Yeah. And then we decided, like, what if we just went full on switch gears and go like Warped Tour.
Weightless. Just go weightless with it.
Open up the pit. And and that like cracked the whole thing open. You know, it was an interesting one, because you wouldn't think that would lend itself, and you'd think you would end up with a really incohesive, like incoherent song that like, where is this thing going? but somehow it works. Like this is the one that I never, ever, ever, ever get bored of hearing.
No.
I just always.
No, definitely
And
not.
we had just started playing it live a little bit too. That was just so fun.
Yeah, dude. So I wanted to mention this actually. So it's my favorite part of the whole album, to be honest, like musical moment, but it's the after chorus 1, the reintro, that guitar lead. It's just my favorite.
I guess you can just play it.
Yeah, right here.
So good.
It just gets you back to it. But it's like, because that was the other challenge. Like, how do we get out of that fast chorus?
What always stood out to me as well in the fast chorus is the clean guitar, because it's not really what you'd expect to have in a fast chorus, at least with
a little
ETL.
jangly guitar.
The jangly clean guitar, it was super cool.
Oh, it's called jangle. Yeah.
Yeah, it is called Jangle. There you go.
Yeah.
I remember Alex playing this guitar lead, and Jack just looked at him and was like, "That sounds sick."
There's always times in the studio where like Alex will like think super outside the box, and you'll be like, "Yeah, I don't know about that," but that was like a moment where you're like, "Fuck, that's it."
Yeah.
It worked out.
So I remember for this one too, we were kind of struggling with the bridge and or at least how to get back into the chorus from the end of the bridge. And so I think we were like programming the drums because we didn't have a drum kit in the house. So I would just program the drums with Cervini. And I remember thinking, oh, fuck, this is fun on programming, but this is going to suck to play when we go to actually track it. Sure enough, it did. But it's a great way to get back into the chorus and like to strip it down, then bring back the energy. And that's one of my favorite parts of the record too, that intro to chorus 3, where it's just vocals. I love that.
It's very reminiscent to me of like Take Off Your Pants and Jacket or Enema of the State era Blink.
Yeah.
Like they always did those. They always did those kind of like musical bridges that somehow still felt really gratifying. And because like a lot of people would say, oh, that's a throwaway for the bridge. Like you're not writing any lyrics. There's no melody here. But like there's something to be said that's just very cool about like bars of instrumentation and something cool, something that gets you to
also I remember the conversation was had where someone mentioned like there's a lot of words in the song. Like this is a pretty wordy song. Like let's have a bridge. Like let's let the song breathe a little in the bridge.
Yeah. I mean that chorus is wordy as hell. And like also I will say now that we're at the bridge going on last chorus, the vocal register for me is like it's not a high chorus, so it lacks like big up in your face vocal energy when the chorus hits, which a lot of the time is like a no unless you find a workaround to make it sound nice. And in this case, we did this big stack of harmonies in the chorus that are just like, I think it might be a 4-parter.
And there's like octaves to it, like your high octave goes throughout, I think.
And so the nice thing about that, like, yeah, I mean,
it's a beautiful 3-part.
So
three
good.
part. And the low one, I like how the low one kind of comes in at the second half. But anyway, what I liked about it was because we had that going in pretty much all the choruses, it sort of led us to how to end the song. And that was, when we come out of that bridge, when we hit that last chorus again, we got to have that soloed out stack of harmonies and do that moment, because that moment can be so cheesy and like forced and not good, but it just works.
Yeah. But the lyric is so good too, and you want to make sure you can like really it gets its moment. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. And I don't know, did we doctor that last one up at all? Like, is there
there's some counter melodies?
Yeah, there's a couple counter melodies and stuff.
I think also this has one of my favorite bass runs in the last chorus too.
I love that. I was gonna say when it goes halftime, and I don't know what the hell happens with the bass, but it goes low as shit. That's one of my favorite parts.
Can we solo the bass out and listen to that?
That's a dope part. Yeah, Zakk goes to his drop C there, I believe, or a low C.
Yeah, right here.
That. So sick.
Tasty.
So good. So good.
Tasty.
And it's like, it's that kind of thing that it's so subtle in the track, but like you've heard the chorus several times already. And a little moment like that, you don't know why necessarily unless you're listening for it, but like, it's just the information that you need.
It's a little extra hot sauce on your last taco.
That's right. That's right, Ryan. And I think that should probably sum up Sleeping In, because I don't think we're going to beat that line from Ryan.
I had tacos for lunch.
Oh,
the
sorry,
reason for going so low at the end is to give it that last just big oomph, and then also usually bass, if you're doing just standard tuning, like the chord on the guitar is the actual same frequencies, you don't get that full range of frequency. So it's actually like really nice and pleasant to have that every once in a while. But if it's too much, it's not good.
Little
Warmed it
rumble.
up. Yeah, warmed it up. It's good.
Hell yeah.
Warms the cockles.
Well,
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
throwing around tons of lyrics and nothing was really sticking with you, and then you started laughing. Like I just remember, like you're like laying on the couch, like kind of on the top of the couch, and you're laughing.
Just cackling maniacally. I lost my mind.
And I was like, "What's up, dude?" And you're like, "How about this?" And you sang the Britney line because you saw Britney Spears on my hoodie, and it was kind of like a no-brainer. Where you're like, "Fuck yeah, like that's sick."
Yeah, it was super fun. And
like I said, it's one of those ideas that you had where you're like, it might be too crazy, but
yeah. And the nice thing about that too is that Bonnie and everybody that wrote the Britney song signed off on us using the line. we had to go and get permission. So shout out to Bonnie for.
You heard that, legal team? We're good. This is fun. We should do this every day.
I figured out that the only way I can do this is to sit AC Slater on my chair, and it's actually kind of nice.
Huh.
What kind of chair you got?
It's not great.
So track 3, Getaway Green, a song that we sort of unveiled early. We had the pleasure of writing this song back in January. We're back to January now, skipping back and forth in time. We wrote this song. Zakk was already there with us. Phil was there, obviously, still. And we were kind of, at this point, starting to cruise. We'd found a bit of a vibe and a bit of a feel that we were honing in on, songwriting-wise. And this one kind of came from, I want to say Zakk sort of started building out this idea for just what felt like very late 90s, like Third Eye Blindy, kind of vibey, head nodding, driving music. And that sort of became the sound bed for where this song went. Yes. And so we did actually have the pleasure a bit later on of unveiling it in front of the crowd at Slam Dunk Fest. And it was interesting doing that because, again, at the time, we didn't even know that we were making an album yet. We just knew we had some new songs. And so popping that one out and putting it in the set was we'd never really done that before. We never debuted a song live before.
Live reveal.
Yeah.
That moment was so special too. Like that's how, especially because we still had more writing to do. Like they went off live, live to that one, and it was like, we cracked a winner with this one. No one knew the song, and the crowd was insane for it.
I remember when Alex pitched that idea. I've said this before, but like I remember at least myself, and I know Jack was like, Alex, no, we're not going to play a new song that we don't even know if it was going to be on the record. We didn't know what was happening with it. We're not going to do it at a huge festival. And then of course it went off, and I was like, damn it.
But I think what was nice about that. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Jack.
Well, years back, we had done it with that song, acoustic song, "Don't Fuck This Whole Thing Up for Me," and it ended up never being released. And for like 5 years, we had to answer the question, like, "When's that song coming out?" It's like, God damn it.
That's the slow play, though, Jack. That's the slow play. We're still gonna put that song out. No. So what was cool about it too, speaking to Phil's point, was that playing that live and having such a special moment before we went and actually figured out that this was going to be a record come that summer. I think this was really reassuring for all of us, like playing this one live when no one had heard it before, and seeing it get the reaction that it did let us know that we were on the right track. I think.
Yeah, it's like a focus group.
Yeah, it was cool. It was very cool because in this day and age, you just don't really get to do that as much, because anytime you play a song, released or not, the videos go online and the song is basically out there in the world. And in this case, because we didn't feel attachment to making an album, we weren't being precious about it. We were just like, well, maybe it makes a record, maybe it doesn't, like whatever. And it kind of tipped us off to the fact that like we were on the right track making music.
Yeah, I think the first thing we heard of this was Cervini just playing those chunky rhythm guitars in the verse, just the kind of that main rhythm. That's it. You get.
It's America, man.
Yeah, it's just so like.
Yeah.
Right down the middle.
Alex came up with this lead guy pretty soon.
That's a classic gas car.
That's a gas car.
I'll give you a lick. I'll give you
one of those leads. I'm like, I could play that. And I'm like, hold up, I need to actually figure this out.
I'm good for one lick a week.
Cervini, was actually you. So I had the that drum fill going into chorus 2 that then you during the writing session kind of just made it start the song, because that wasn't my idea. I don't think, to start the song with that chaka, which is how we say it in drum talk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Right. Can you do it one more time?
Chaka,
Nice.
That is what it is. Nice usage of closed hi-hat, Ryan.
Thank you very much. It's my specialty.
Alex, how'd you come up with the lyric in the chorus of this? The lyric is very, very cool.
So this song for me was very, it was all written kind of off the sound of the music bed. I was like really vibing with it just felt SoCal to me. It felt very like I was driving down the PCH or something like that. And so I kind of imagined that sense you get of running away. And then I like the freedom, like, and those memories that you have, like with a person, like driving, taking a drive and just getting out. And so I started thinking of like how to visualize that. And then I was imagining these green lights, like traffic lights. And then the getaway green just like clicked. And I remember writing it down. And so I had my iPad and I always just scribble on it with the pen. And I remember just writing down getaway green with really no context other than that. Because I think we went back and wrote the verses first, and I didn't have the rest of the chorus yet. But then we sort of, in the verses, I started based off of like old memories and things like that, started telling these stories of like, lost and forgotten love and things like that. And the chorus just took shape from there. It sort of, I found the answer by way of the verses using that getaway green visual.
Well
Very
done.
cool.
That was well put. I've got two like techie nerdy things about this one. Well, one's a complaint that I've always had that now I'm coming around to that I accept, but I hated that we remember.
Brian.
Oh, I know what it is. I know what it's gonna be.
Right, in the breakdown chorus. I mean, halfway through that chorus, my question was, how do we not go back in full band here? Like, how are we just going to keep them wanting? But now, like, after playing it live for a while and just seeing the crowd, like, hang on, and then we finally hit that last little outro, and it works out just fine.
I remember that
cool.
play.
Yeah.
Remember how much I would say that? I'd be like, just try it. Like, Cervini, just bring the instruments in here.
It makes me want to listen to this song again, though. Like,
Yo, Ryan,
Very
sometimes you got to talk about it, man. You got to think outside the box, bro.
You do a lot of taco talk. And then this has another one of my favorite bass parts. In that last outro part, I don't know what the hell happens in the bass.
Oh, is that the one where it comes
down.
in with a little walk down, and then also there's a couple of parts where we kind of match on drums and bass together.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Nice.
can we solo the bass and drums so we can hear the way that it kind of like locks
On that
us
outro?
together?
Yeah.
My dog's barking. I'm going to mute myself for a second.
Leave him in, dude. And I think you open up with the playing too. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, imagine the Phil.
Go back. I talked over the Phil.
Oh, please.
That.
Yeah, that walk. So nice.
Nice.
So sick.
Slick
Nice
rhythm right there,
ending
boys.
chord as well.
Hear that little
rhythm
shaker
work.
in the end too?
Oh yeah. Ryan, I believe that was Rattleshake Johnson or Jenkins who did.
Most people think it's a rattlesnake.
Yeah. So yeah, back to your original, like what you were saying before, right? It is a little atypical to unorthodox, yes, to do a last chorus that's completely dropped. And
let's play it real quick, and I'll tell people when I thought it would come in full band, just based on my non-creativity.
Usually
I wanted it here.
2, 3, in.
But Alex said, fuck you. Cervini said, fuck you. Phil said, fuck you.
I said, let them wait. Let them earn it. And then the payoff.
It is a payoff.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
Brian,
So good.
little did you know that you guys were creating a moment which is really kind of unique, where it's just me, you, and Alex at the same time, which rarely happens.
Yeah,
and you
and
wanted to destroy that.
I didn't like the idea of you staring at me that long live, and just on my kick drum, just doing this, looking at me.
I mean,
And you do.
That's literally, yeah, and I do.
This song is like the perfect sound for the record for me, like, and it's synonymous with your theme lyrically. Like, by that part there, if you're driving, listening to this song, all your windows are down, the stereo is as loud as it goes.
It's very
like,
true.
It is just,
Yeah.
like, even if it's piss raining in England outside, like, you imagine that it's summer at this point. It's so good.
Love it. And that was very much, that kind of speaks to the sentiment of like, I think this one was another breakthrough song in the sense that it really started keying us into the overarching like sonic themes of the album. The fact that we wanted it to feel, we didn't even know the record was going to be called Wake Up Sunshine yet, but I think we started to lock in on this idea that we were writing a record that felt like sitting in the sun. Something about, there was something about sunshine that was very inherent in even the music. It just felt bright and warm and energetic. And yeah, this song I think played a huge part in getting us there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it seems as though we did try the last chorus here with these muted vocals.
Oh, look at that.
I did not know about that.
That's from Ryan's session. Ryan like had a side session. He's like, I'm just gonna.
I go into my studio early one day. Oh, they won't notice.
Something sounds different this morning. No.
No, everyone already has it.
It's off. It's been mastered.
Cool. Percussion's cool in this because all the percussion was cut in exactly the same way as the vocals.
Yeah.
You know, a fun fact about this percussion is that some of it is Dan Swank recording in another room. He recorded like a tambourine on this, I believe, but we actually recorded it through the wrong mic.
I remember that.
It's like it sounds like one of the pretty horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, you meant to do it to like the room mic that was right there, and you had like an overhead 10 feet away.
Yeah.
Let's take a listen.
Really, but it wound up being okay.
Yeah, it's kind of phasey. You can tell it's a little bit.
Yeah.
You can tell it's not Rattlesnake Johnson.
That's no rattle. Ryan, it's Rattleshake, please.
Oh, sorry.
A lot of people think it's Rattlesnake.
Yeah.
Cool.
Love this song.
It's a great song.
Banger. Melancholy Kaleidoscope. I
believe this was Cervini day one.
Day one, baby.
This was Zakk coming in hot and heavy.
Yeah, he kind of just came in and said, "Fuck you. This is what All Time Low should sound like in 2020." And we said,
he listened to everything we had been working on and was like, "Yeah, that's great, but what about some pop punk?"
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just remember like coming in like to the studio maybe 10 minutes before Alex got there, and I was like just sat down at the computer, and I was like hanging with Phil, and we were like, "We should try something fast." And then Alex came in, he was like, "Oh, here we go." And like I couldn't tell if he was pissed or not.
Yeah. Alex was like, "Oh, a riff where I can hammer on and hammer on."
I was gonna say, it's very circa like old All Time Low. This lead part.
This song very much reminds me of like almost like Heroes from Dirty Work or something that could have been on like Don't Panic. I remember waking up that day. It was cold as shit in this is back again in January in Nashville. Got to the studio, and then, you know, in my mind, I'm like, all right, we'll go in and definitely write a slow, sad song today. And the first thing, I walk through the door and I just hear, I'm like, whoa, what? And I was like, all right, here we go. I'm going to do it. And so this song was kind of born of me not wanting to write this song and Zakk Cervini sort of pushing me to go with it. And as such, we came up with this idea for kind of like shaking yourself out of a funk, and the sentiment that like sometimes getting at least on the road to repair requires you giving a bit of energy to that. And so like in the sense that this song required me going, I feel like singing a sad song today. I don't want to write a fast, happy pop punk song. I think that was a really interesting thing thematically. And then Melancholy Kaleidoscope, the song title, was again sort of like Getaway Green. It was just me sitting there, and I really liked the way it rolled off the tongue, just saying Melancholy Kaleidoscope. And I just kept saying that, and I was like, what is that? What could that possibly be? And it really like ended up speaking to where I was emotionally that day, which was, you know, the first line of the song being nobody wants to hear a sad song. And it was me kind of telling myself that, like, you know, the people I'm writing for right now don't want to hear me drone on about how sad I am currently. They want something uplifting.
It's interesting that's the kind of process for how the song got written, because that's kind of a parallel. I see a lot of parallels to how Weightless was written, and both songs have a similar message. So that's kind of interesting.
Yes.
I remember the first chorus of this song being a little thrown off by that, just because everything is so in your face from the start. And then suddenly the one part that like you expected to hit you the hardest, you said, no. There's just two acoustic guitars and like a little drum roll and some low vocals.
I feel like that was like Cervini and Phil trying to because it was sort of, I pushed back at first being like, I don't know if I feel like writing like just a straight up pop punk song today. And I feel like that was their response to me, like them acting as the producers in the room and being like, we should really go down this road because there's something here. They both pushed back and went like, okay, well, what if chorus 1 goes somewhere really unexpected all of a sudden, but still lends itself to being a great first chorus? And again, just doing things different in the same way we didn't end Getaway Green with a typical big last chorus. This was like, let's not hit them with a typical big first chorus. Let's go the complete opposite of that. And it worked really, really well.
Yeah. For me and Cervini, I remember we'd been in the studio for maybe like a week and we toyed around with some ideas, and then Cervini was showing up and I went down early to kind of show him around what we were doing, the way things were patched and how shit was working. And he sat me down and was like, what do you love about working with All Time Low? What do you want to hear from them? And, I explained how I was a fan and how, when I was 18 and listening to All Time Low, what I loved. And he kind of just had this idea of, the feel that we used to get when we listened to All Time Low, both as fans, and how we could encapsulate that in a modern palette, I guess.
Yeah, going off that, I think that's how we like got away with this one too, is that it's like a professional pop punk song, but that coupled with like how the lyrics are kind of the opposite of how the song feels. And then with like the twists and turns, like the first chorus being a breakdown, the bridge having some like kind of strange elements, and like the second pre-chorus where Alex is like, take it to the chorus, or like that thing there. All those kind of like influence on all those kind of twists and turns are kind of what made this song like its like unique special thing, and not just like a punk song, which I think is cool.
A lot of the songs on this record have two sides. So there's the story that seems very plain and apparent, and like, me singing to you kind of thing. But there's also a different kind of meta layer about speaking to what this band is and our career as a whole, and the band as an entity or a character, like finding itself and discovering itself through these songs. Like it's sort of a self-aware song in the sense that, it's like, All Time Low has often been at its best when we are writing fun, energetic, happy music. But then here's this struggle, this internal struggle of like, but I have more to say than that. I feel these other things. I'm not just this fucking happy-go-lucky thing all the time. Let me expand. Let me try other things. And so this song explores all of that in a really interesting way, I think. And so like whether you're looking at it from like a personal, individual place or as the band looking in on itself, I think it kind of does both of those things really interestingly.
I think this is when, as well, we really started to accept, at least me personally. So we were doing this at my studio, which I have curated over a few years of being like really nice, and I have nice equipment there. I have rooms dedicated to each instrument. And this is when I realized, we are just going to record these acoustic guitars sitting in the control room with me holding a $200 microphone to the acoustic guitar. But I think, and then Alex singing the vocals sitting on the control room couch. And I think that is kind of what set up how we were able to do the rest of the record, because before that, we were thinking we need a studio, we need a vocal booth, we need this. And then suddenly we're like, oh no, this can all be done in a room, which then opened up the possibility of just renting a house, which then of course led to Palm Desert. But I remember that day being like, okay, swallow your pride. We don't have to use all your nice stuff. This is going to be just fine. But I remember Cervini playing at least the scratch guitars in the chorus 1 on acoustic, and me just holding that mic up there and being like, this is life now.
Because we couldn't be bothered to go get a short boom stand from the other room.
That's the truth. Yeah, that's the truth. Yeah. it kind of brought me back to like when I used to like make demos when I was like 14 in like my basement type thing, like that same exact kind of feeling. And I think that kind of like I think we kind of all felt like that.
Yeah.
That verse 1 sound, like the sonics in this one were just incredible. It's like whoa.
Which, by the way, gets off tempo by the end of the verses,
which is great.
It's not too abridged.
And I was going to say actually about this song and about a lot of overarching stuff on the whole record. There's a lot of stuff that we left just very loosey-goosey, and it in the same way that there's ambient noise and people talking in the background of my vocal takes because we're in a big marble room. There's like a lot of fuck ups that we kind of just left alone. Like not fuck ups, like but just little things that
not perfect takes.
It falls out of time, but it's okay because like when you listen to it in the big picture, it kind of still does something interesting. And I think in some All Time Low records past, there have been some of that feel has been lost because things have been over edited or over gridded. And I think like this record does, it sounds so polished and so good, but there's still an element of like someone is playing this live because those moments, it's like there is the human imperfection on there.
Yeah, there would be times where I'm like tracking rhythm guitars and I'm like, Cervini's like, cool, we got it. I'm like, you sure? Like, you sure you got it? Like, I think I can play that better. You're like, no, we got it, man. I was like, okay.
Cervini, can you solo out that verse pluck thing? That yes. I just want to hear what that sounds like by itself.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is a weird like.
It was one guitar chord, I think.
That was just chopped
like,
up.
Strummed. No, it was tremolator and like decapitator.
Yes, yes, that is what it was.
Yeah, because I saw it and I was like, "What the hell is that sound?" It is incredible. So I was looking over your shoulder, like, "How the fuck?" So it's been on every one of my songs since.
It's always nice when in a production you find that new trick and then you use it on every subsequent song for the next month.
Hey, let's do unless it's committed, can we do Alex's vocal without effects going into that second chorus?
Oh shit.
And then add effects to it?
This is probably the only thing that took more than one take on the
yeah. So I will say before we get to this, there are so many, like this song especially, there are so many just cool like nuggets of information hidden throughout. Like there's so much cool like playful lead guitar on this one that was really fun. Like the intro guitar alone, at some point I kind of want to take a listen through to that because that riff was like a really fun one to come up with in the studio. I think we had to like capo on the 3 and someone had to hold a note for me on one of the strings in order to be able to play the riff. But yeah, it's
real quick. Do you sing over that at all? Because live, what are we gonna do?
No, I'm not.
Swank.
But yeah, like let's listen to this crazy vocal.
So let's listen to it how it is on the record.
And so before we hear it, just to explain this, so the line is, "We now return to our regularly scheduled program," and the whole thing of this, again, this sort of being a self-aware song, was this chorus 2 where you get this big payoff of a big fat all-time low hook. It was sort of like after me resisting of writing this kind of song this day, this was me being like, here's what you want. Here's what everybody is expecting and what everybody probably, the payoff that everybody probably wants. So this was kind of the song getting us back to all-time low.
Yeah.
More or less. And so it was done with this vocal.
We now return to our regularly scheduled program.
It almost sounds like a sample off an old radio or something. But
give me the delay on there.
This. Oh yeah, there's delay.
We now return to our regularly scheduled program.
Very nice.
That's so good.
Yeah, so many of the vocals on this album, literally Alex just like sat with the mic and sang them. And there were 2 songs when I started to edit and I went through and edited all the vocals for an entire day and then listened back and it actually sounded worse. So I just deleted all of it and just like kept it the way it was because like, the way he did it, there was just like, I don't know. I barely had to touch it. It's crazy.
I'm so terrible that I'm good.
I'll take notes.
Yeah, that was that.
One take too, huh?
I remember.
Certainly not.
I remember this because it was like Cervini's first day, and I was like, oh, I could relax because I didn't have to be sit like this for 12 hours a day or whatever. And it was lunchtime, and we were kind of like in the bread and butter of this song. And I was through in the kitchen, and from the kitchen in Ryan's studio, you could see into the control room. And I was eating a burrito, and I was like this, and I just hear it cranked, and I look to my right, and Alex is playing this lead on the couch, like leg up.
Yes.
You have to assume the shred position if you're gonna shred. It's just a rule. It's the first rule. Yeah, so this one's super fun. There's some cool stuff I think that happens towards the bridge and last chorus. If we want to like check that out real quick. Damn. Yeah. Also, Rye, your drums on this one.
Yeah, it's a fun drum one for sure.
Some of your fills in this song are ridiculous.
This is a very fun one. Even that intro fill has become one of my favorite ones. And recently when I was doing the playthroughs that I've been doing at my little drum room, I was like, oh shit, this is some cool drumming. And I definitely credit Phil and Cervini for helping me program. Because like I said, the way we did it was we would program, like just put in the drums fake. And that kind of allows you for some more time to figure out fills. You're not locked in right away. So a lot of these were, and Alex, you too, you're very heavy-handed on like writing drum fills. So a lot of it wasn't my original idea, but it just ended up awesome.
Like you said, drum day is scary because it's one of the days that things really start to get finalized and locked in. Like once the drum groove and the fills are sort of dialed in and there and actually recorded on real drums, like, yeah, you can change them. You can obviously go back and make drum edits, but like it doesn't sound that great to do.
Yeah.
So like doing it this way and being able to really like shape how the song was going to rhythmically play out and then being able to go in and have you track drums after the fact was super helpful, because when we did get to drum day, it felt much more like we were already locked in on what the final idea is.
Absolutely, yeah. Is that track Happy Organ?
How did we come up with that sound? So that little, almost like the little spacey, pulsey, kind of reminds me of some like Angels and Airwaves or something like that.
Maybe Postal Service or Angels and Airwaves.
What do we got here?
That's a guitar, right?
That is a synth.
It's a wave synth. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was looking at the wrong
kind of wave synth. Oh, a little filter that opens up. That's
that Phil filter.
That's the filter. Yeah, it's a little low cut, but yeah, that's cool. That's a cool sound.
And it's kind of just tremolating. You don't realize that, but it's actually just on a really quick loop. But for some reason, because of the delay throws, it sort of sounds like it's doing a lot more than it actually is. But when it opens up there at the end, you kind of hear it more clearly, and it's like,
I love this sidechain guitar here. I think he's about to play it right here. That.
Yeah, it's like some sidechain guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all those like those little layers of stuff too that just makes this song like more than meets the eye.
What's so nice about it too is all that tremolation and like the side chaining and everything. It gives everything such a big pulsing feeling, so you can't help but like nod along. It just
tells you when to nod.
Yep.
Yeah,
Cervini's gonna hate.
There's no drum. Oh, the drums are like kind of snare rolly there.
Yeah, snare roll. Yep, and there's some nice percussion over top it to keep it going.
Yeah,
let's peep
Marching
that.
boy.
Annihilated this.
That snare room sound is just so sick.
So good.
Red Bull Studios, baby.
Can't be 100 if you're only given 95.
Such a great line as well. Cervini's going to hate it, but looking through this session, it's going to show you how fast we were working. He hasn't had time to name these takes, so they're all called audio. That's when you don't have time to write it down because we so quick.
That's correct. Yes.
So many of it's just audio 1, audio 2, take 500.
Most of the stuff is from the first day that we worked on this song. We pretty much got it done and then put drums on it and like that. That was pretty much.
I think there was some magic that was happening there too. A lot of what ended up making the record was from the, I guess what you would call the demo versions of the songs when we first wrote them. And I just think there's something to be said about the magic that you find in those very first moments of conception with a song. And I tend to find that like the further and further away from those you get as you chase like producing up the song, the sort of like more dead they sometimes start to feel. Like it sucks the life out of them. So yeah, it's nice to see all the demo stuff still in there living.
A lot of the times, like from what I've found, like the first time that you record a song is the most exciting a lot of the times. Absolutely. And that translates to
the thing about being a producer, at least when you're working with our band, I feel like is Alex and everyone's throwing out so many ideas, and they're like you need to have a producer that can like make them recreate the sound so quickly and perfectly exactly how you hear it. So you don't lose that moment. And I feel like that's why, Phil and Zakk Cervini have been so good for us.
Yeah, I don't remember ever having to spend like an hour chasing down a sound that was like in one of our heads. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like we would figure those things out pretty quickly. And that kept the ball rolling. So it never gave us a minute to overthink things. It was just very natural and felt good the whole time. We cooked up this beat. We cooked up this jazzy beat for the song Trouble Is. And I just remember being like, this is either going to be one of the sickest songs on this album, or this is going to be the song that makes us quit making music for this cycle.
Turns out it was both.
because it was like that point where we were like, let's do something different. Let's try a time
Yeah.
signature thing. And that oftentimes, ladies and gentlemen, is where the whole project can derail, when you start taking those weird chances. And I'll say, it worked out for the best, because this song is everything I loved about the more technical side of All Time Low, with songs like, Guts and So Long Soldier and songs like that. It really actually reminds me a lot of our Don't Panic era.
Off to Mr. Cervini for being not producer like and be like, no, keep it in 4, keep it in 6. He'd just be like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It was a fun challenge, because I remember the whole challenge we sort of set forth was like, okay, if we have this weird time signature where we're counting it, it's a bar of what? A bar of 6 and a bar of 7?
Yeah.
Or something like that. And it's really not the easiest thing to write a catchy melody over that, because you're always going to have a line hiccup, and it's hard to make it consistent, which in pop music, you want everything to be linear and repetitive. And so this kind of automatically goes against that, just being that you literally can't do it. The time signature doesn't allow for it. So it was an exercise in trying to write a vocal that like plays on the beat, but doesn't adhere to it.
Yeah, it's also crafty songwriting to have it start with the drums, because it is an odd signature, to kind of let the listener be prepared for it. So they're not trying to sing along to something that is weird. By the time it happens, they've already got a little bit of an idea of like, okay, this is going to be throwing me through a bit of a loop.
You kind of forget.
Where did that idea like even come from in the first place? Like,
I think it was a Gaskarth coffee thing.
Yeah, I'd had a few coffees. My brain wasn't working.
Trouble was kind of early in the process. The bridge was actually the chorus. Do you remember that? Like we were throwing around like the bleach on my shirt, and that idea lyrically, we're in the chorus.
Yeah, because I remember that day we would like walk around.
It never felt like a chorus. I was gonna say it never felt like a chorus fully fleshed out, and then it got to the point that after like beating it to the ground, you're like, all right, let's just scrap that idea. And then later on, it came back and worked in the bridge.
Yeah.
But that day, we were all kind of like walking around the house, like making lunch and like throwing ideas of like another, like the bridge ideas. We just like all were throwing them at you. And like, all right, let's just turn off this for a minute and go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Can we hear the chorus without vocals, just to hear the instrumentation of that full-time 680 song about? Not to ruin not that your chorus vocals.
It's exactly. We should be doing that. We should be chasing these words.
Very catchy. Love that bass matching the fill there too.
Yeah, bass definitely took a nice walk on this one.
I remember now the caffeine high that resulted in this tempo and this time signature and all that. It was because I was like, I wanted something that was just a bounce, like something that even though it was unusual and different, you never came out of this kind of groove. And 6/8's typically waltzy, and you want to kind of do one of these things.
Yeah.
We sort of went the other way with it. And I think what's fun about how the strange time signature in the verse settles into 6/8 is you never really lose this, even though at all times you
just got to do an extra one every now and again.
Yeah, but you never lose it. Like you never have to stop doing that.
All Time Low, one of like All Time Low's tricks is the last chorus we go full time, usually when the chorus is halftime. This one we flipped it. Chorus 1 and 2 are pretty much full time 6/8, and then chorus 3 is what you typically would go for in a 6/8 song, where it's more like Alex was saying, kind of like waltz back and forth, and that's the change.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a nice payoff. So the drum groove, and then into that, the clean guitar part that we came up with, because that's unusual too, like writing a guitar part that would loop over the bar of 7, which is the weird part, and still having it work. I think hearing those two things in context is interesting, and then maybe like if you bring in the vocal. So there's that extra bum bum bum. There's 3.
Who knew we had a good thing? Didn't know just how much I would miss you. Sick of doing nothing. Even now you're gone, I know that I need you.
And then it settles into 6 right there. What I like too about it is that you really naturally accentuated those 3 little hits that get you back to the 1 with snare. So you kind of you with the drums, even though it's an odd time signature, is you're acting as the guide for the person listening with the bop 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 back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's
preparing them.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty good stuff. That's music, guys.
Pretty cool.
Lyrically, I was kind of exploring the idea of like something unexpected re-entering your life and sort of like throwing you for a loop. Like suddenly you don't know what to do with yourself anymore because something new has come into your life. And whether that's like an old relationship or something unresolved, something that's been lingering in the back of your mind that suddenly comes to the forefront for like an unexpected reason. And you're just all of a sudden like, well, this is my whole life now. And I thought I was done with this. And what am I going to do here? And so what I really liked, actually going back to that lyric that we didn't use in the chorus, but did bring back in the bridge, that lyric about the drop of bleach on my favorite tee was like this really important metaphor to me, because it's that thing like when you get bleach on your t-shirt, and there's two ways to look at it. You either ruined your t-shirt or you've said you've improved it. And I liked this sort of juxtaposition in that of this idea of like something that is now there forever. And like, how are you going to look at it? Like, what are you going to do with that? Are you throwing out the t-shirt, or are you going to be like, well, now it's custom? So yeah, I thought that was kind of a cool through line to explore.
You're so good at explaining your lyrics. Into chorus 3, there's this really cool swell. I'm assuming it's some kind of guitar feedback reversed.
Yes. And there's also some bass chord there as well.
Is that just electric guitar that's reversed?
This is a guitar that is reversed, it would appear. Let's see.
It's nice and blown out.
Sounds like an Ebo part or something.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
like
scary.
You can hear it breaking up.
Yep, reverse guitar. Let's see.
I love it so much.
One of my favorite things working with Cervini is like, you'll step away from a song for a minute as you're working on it, and you'll turn around and you'll just see Zakk like with the guitar suspended upside down in front of one of the speakers, 18 guitar pedal effects turned on, and he's just like letting it feed back in the room.
Yes.
And then you're just like, what is happening? Like, he's finally snapped. This is it. And then like 2 minutes later, he's chopped it up, reversed it, and like time coded it, and it's like the coolest little.
And then his ability, as I said before, to be like, to spend an hour doing that and then be like, no, didn't work, and just move on. Like, instead of being like, okay, no, we got to make this puzzle piece fit. Like, like I would for sure. Also, like, especially for someone like me who is not a songwriter by any means, Cervini's ability to accept any idea as not being stupid, even if it's a scary thing to be in a studio setting, a songwriting session, anything, and to pitch your idea, especially when you're with people like like you, Alex, Cervini, Goldstein, Kevin, Swank, even like these people that do it every single day. And Cervini, your ability just to be like, oh yeah, that could work, even if maybe deep down you don't think it can. You never make anyone feel like there's a stupid idea. So
this chorus and this bridge is a good example, because like the bridge is a call and answer kind of, and like for a chorus that doesn't really work, but like we tried to make it work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then so, but it's like, oh, maybe not for the chorus, but for the bridge.
Right.
Yeah. For chorus 3 too, like I really experimented with like how to match a vocal and the drums at the same time, with not doing too much, but also trying to show that I could do a lot with what the space was available.
Yeah,
which I thought was really cool.
Some of my favorite of your bass work is on this record. But it's like there's just so much, like, I think oftentimes like pop rock and pop punk and those styles of music like kind of people don't necessarily think that like the bass is giving that much. It's like, oh yeah, the bass is probably just playing the root notes, but it's like there is so much happening on bass especially on this All Time Low record, but on all of our All Time Low records. And like, I've always felt that has given us an edge. You know what I mean? I think
it acts like another hook, right? Yeah, like you have your melodic hooks, and Jack, like some of your lead parts are really hooky, and then drums or whatever, like there's some fills that you can do, but to have a bassist who's able to be like, okay, well, how about we throw this in chorus 3, and everyone looks up and be like, oh, what is that? That's very important.
What's really interesting about it, and to your point, Zakk, like to kind of expand on what you were saying with how it fit with the vocal and the drums, what's interesting about a lot of the time what I think Zakk does is like you'll slip in a note that becomes based on the chord that I'm playing or the melody I'm singing. Suddenly it'll shape like a 5th or a 9th or a 7th, or like depends on the song, but like you actually have like this new chordal information now in the 3rd chorus. And it's so important because you've heard this chorus 3 times, and it's that like something that subtle is felt not heard a lot of the time by the listener. And it's just like, it's what makes you want to keep coming back and listening to the song again and again and not get bored. And you don't really know what's doing it, but a lot of the time it's that new piece of information on the bass that's like, oh, well, we haven't heard this chord with this vocal played with the sixth underneath it, but now because of your run, you do. And it's a very interesting thing that just kind of like makes the last chord pop.
A little extra pico on your last quesadilla, if you will, you know?
Yeah. Zakk's bass playing, like, well, first of all, he plays with his fingers, which like definitely is like a part of the all-time low sound, I think, because not a lot of bass players play with their fingers, but he's so good at bass, and he could easily be like really flashy, but he knows how to like restrain it. And pretty much every song on this record, and I mean most all-time low songs too, they kind of have this build to them with the bass where it starts out really simple, and then by the end it slowly gets a little more. It could be like the first and second chorus could be copy pasted, vocals, drums, everything, but there could be a tiny little bass inflection that's what kind of keeps you listening sometimes, subconsciously.
Let's take a look before we wrap this one up. Let's take a look at what the bass is doing in that last chorus, because
do bass, drums, and vocal. And that way it can show you an idea.
So sick. So sick.
Damn, that's
sick. Can we do that one more time? And then I want to we need to just diagnose everything that just happened there, because there's so much happening in that last chorus that, again, with everything happening, when the guitars are unmuted, when everything's happening, you wouldn't necessarily pick up on everything that Zakk's doing there, but because of what he does, that last chorus just feels that much more refreshed. Because dude, you get there's in your fills, there's like these passing notes that, harmonize with my vocal. And there was that moment where I think he went to a harmonizing note with the guitar. It's just, I don't know. It's cool. One more time.
Yeah, he goes with the drums right there. That's cool. And he plays the melody here. Your alt melody, he plays on the bass right there. Phil.
And then also back to the low note up to the high.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. He's so nice.
It's gonna be so fun to play these live
in 2025.
Yeah.
If you notice during this song, Zakk just standing still and staring at his bass. That's why there's a lot happening.
That's usually what happens at first, but then eventually, because a lot of times, it's easy to play bass when I'm playing the actual melody that you're singing. That's easy, right. But as soon as you go to a counter melody, and you're singing your melody at the same time, plus which is the harmony, right. That's when the brain's like, wait, what is happening?
And that is why Zakk Merrick is the best. And we do not question it.
Fuck yeah.
Man, so that's the first
That's a fun one.
Feels good. I think, maybe we wrap it up here for the day. And next time we come back, it'll be the next 5 songs.
Let's do it.